So something you can do might be to have small groups to encourage positive social behavior. Provide the student with specific directions for group tasks and increase the time as the task grows in complexity. Use the group approach during the subject area where the student with fetal alcohol syndrome has little difficulty, so he or she can focus on those skills rather than the academic skills. Read stories with a clear focus on cause and effect for little ones. Mediate group discussions about story comprehension with direct focus on concepts. That works for middle school and also high school. Some other strategies that you can give might be to have a small flip chart with every step of an activity on a separate page. So you'd include things like pictures and words if the student needs to have that visual reminder. Visual reminders are really key. Once the student finishes the step, he or she can flip to the next page and go on to the next step. For activities that will be replicated often, have the student create a binder for these directions. When the student begins to work on a particular type of, let's say, a math problem, have them pull out that binder and return to the correct page for those instructions. I would have them keep that binder in the classroom so that it's never misplaced and it's always in the same place when they go back to it. Older students could use things like electronics to help them remember the steps, or using a computer to help them, or if their phone, if they have a reminding app on their phone. Once the student completes the step, he or she can check it off on the electronic device. Use examples whenever possible and wherever possible. It shows a concrete example of a completed work, and that worksheet or blank project then serves as directions for all of the students. So read the directions together and do then one problem from each section before the independent work begins, so that the student has a concrete idea of what the end result is supposed to look like. Use a consistent area of the board to write daily homework assignments and schedule for the class. Give the student time during the day to copy that information into books or a planner or into his or her phone, and review that schedule frequently. So always going back to that planner. Create color-coded calendars for the student to be taped to the inside of his or her locker. As each day is completed, then you can have the student cross off the day with a large X. You can do this, of course, in an app as well. Adaptive behavior problems. Students with FAS may not follow the rules of social games or sports. They may have difficulty communicating their needs or their wants. Furthermore, they may not understand time-sensitive tasks or have issues with decision-making skills or following instructions or problem-solving. They may exhibit very immature behavior and lack skills for real independent living. For example, problems with age-appropriate hygiene. This becomes really, really defined as they get older. Of course, as they're hitting puberty and their bodies are changing, they're not always aware of how they are perceived to other people. So, how can you help this in the classroom? Well, practice joining groups during recess, gym, etc. Illustrate through modeling, prompting. There's that modeling again. Encourage self-monitoring and self-evaluation for the students. Look at ideas in health and safety that show concepts of cause and effect. Focus on home and community safety. Other things that you can do for FAS students, and this is all the time and for all of these issues, try to use the same staff consistently when working with students with FASD. If substitute staff are going to be used, prepare the student well in advance or have one consistent staff person with the student to make the change more acceptable. So if you're going to use supply teachers, try to always use the same supply teacher and let that student know in advance that that supply teacher is coming in, if at all possible. Build desk or locker cleaning time into the class schedule. Some students with FASD won't be able to keep their lockers or desks clean unless time is set aside for the task. So students whose desks or lockers are already clean or who end early, you can provide them with enjoyable activities that they would enjoy while their other classmates finish up. Build in spot checks of the students' desks or lockers and praise them when they've kept them neat. Organizing the students' immediate surroundings so that they can focus on the task at hand instead of trying to locate materials they may need. So for instance, have the student keep all of his his or her pens or pencils in a box in the desk or in a pouch in their binder. It helps to reduce the time it takes for him or her to become focused on the task. I like to keep a particular drawer in my classroom for each class so that they know that their book might be in that particular drawer. Have extra supplies like pens, pencils, paper, etc. like that students can borrow as they need them. Put these extra supplies in individual containers and have them easily and readily available for students to access. It allows them to become more independent if the supplies can be borrowed without asking. So if you need something, take something. The last impact in the classroom I'm going to talk about is physical functioning problems. Basic physiological responses may be abnormal in students with FAS. May be present in one or more of the following ways. A high threshold for pain that can result in the student not being aware of serious injury or infection. No perception of hunger or satiation. Difficulty perceiving extreme temperatures and difficulty with visual spatial perception and balance. Some have significant delays in gross and fine motor skill development that can affect all areas of their functioning. In mild cases, delays in motor abilities can influence the acquisition of skills, like tying shoelaces or printing neatly. In more severe cases, children with FAS may have had problems learning to chew or swallow food. Students with FAS may also have higher than average incidence of a number of other medical concerns. They include things like difficulties with vision, difficulties with hearing, heart problems, growth deficiencies, neurological conditions like seizures, and impaired joint and or bone development. It's imperative that the teacher have all of the necessary information when it comes to physical deficits in an FAS child, where the child could be physically in danger with certain activities. The parent, the teacher, the LST, support personnel, they can all come up with alternative programming that protects the physical fragility of these students while highlighting the student's strength. Things in the classroom that we can do. Well, using calm colors on the walls and on bulletin boards in the classroom. Of course, you can't go around repainting classrooms at will, but using calming colors or asking for your rooms to be repainted if they are really bright, garish colors. Reducing the brightness of lighting in the room. Again, this is a physical services kind of issue. But if it's not possible, set up an area of the room where some of the bulbs can be removed and have the students sit in this area. Use moderate heating and ventilation for a classroom, or have fans available for the student if he or she becomes too chilled or too warm. Students with an FASD are not always able to block out other noises. For instance, ticking of the clock can really distract them. You might want to invest in a quieter clock or ask if there is one with a second hand that doesn't tick. A teacher or a teacher's aide talking with another student can very easily distract a student with FASD. Putting tennis balls or little carpet pieces on the bottoms of the legs of chairs to reduce noise as a student moves around in their desk and chairs can really help. There are lots of other things that we can do and things that can happen inside and outside of school for all students with FAS or FASD. Agencies and health professionals are available for the student, the parents, and the teachers involved. As FAS is a lifelong diagnosis, it is imperative to obtain the proper help for the student. It can include things like district-based services such as speech, language pathologists, occupational or physical therapists, school psychologists, or learning or behavioral consultants or coordinators, medical professionals, community-based services such as a child and youth committee, social services, or mental health agencies. These are all places that can help students with FAS.